Deepa says, negating the sense of self. This seems crazy. How do I protect myself and my boundaries of what's acceptable? That's actually a super, super great question, important question. Um, so the whole point of spiritual realization, okay, Deepa, let's just talk about spiritual realization for a moment. The whole point of spiritual realization is to transcend everything that's not spiritual. That means I transcend the physical, I transcend the emotional, I transcend the mental, I transcend, all these things that are identifiable as Miles. As long as my identity is embedded there, which they are, um, um, I won't realize my spiritual nature, my true spiritual nature. Through the practice of meditation, we will gradually, the boundaries of the sense of self dissolve. In that state of meditation, this is the key, it's in that state of meditation, the boundaries of the self dissolve, and consciousness in a way expands into a transcendent state, and that's where the spiritual realization awakens. But we still have to do the laundry, we still have to go shopping, we still have to walk down the street at night when it's dark, we still have to pay the bill. We have to do all of those things. And for those things, we must have boundaries. And I would even go further and say we must have healthy boundaries. So it's in the practice of transcending the self, we don't try to dissolve the boundaries. The boundaries dissolve. That's what happens. You take a simple practice like mindfulness meditation, or a simple inquiry like "Who am I?" This kind of perennial inquiry: "Who am I? Who am I?" And you work with it, and the boundaries of the self are going to dissolve, 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 dissolve. That's what's going to happen. No boundaries. But when you come out of that state, Miles is back here, and the sense of Miles and my body and my boundaries and my age. My kids are over there on the other side of town. I have to go get them, take them to the pool. These things are all there. The boundaries are there, and they should be there. So it is scary. Negating the sense of self is scary, and the question, how do I protect myself, is super relevant. The way you protect yourself is that you have healthy boundaries. We the old saying, praise Allah and tie the camel to the post. You praise the Lord, but you still make sure that your camel's tied. The tying the camel is where we work on creating healthy boundaries. The praising Allah is where we work on transcending the boundaries. Now, if you look at your question here, negating the sense of self, it seems scary. Okay, so first I said that, yeah, we do want to have healthy boundaries. We want to protect ourselves. That's normal. Buy insurance, get a nice place to live, get your clothes, all that's boundary. Learn how to kind of negotiate, create boundaries for other people that you don't trust, and, that we need to do. So that's aside. But when it comes to spiritual realization, negating the sense of self, it says right here, it seems scary. So here's my question, Deepa. Seems scary for who? Negating the sense of self is profoundly scary for the sense of self. And there is the whole kind of nut of spiritual practice. Because as we get closer and closer to in a way, the root of the sense of self is deep in our consciousness. As we begin to purify the mind, and all of those roots and all of those boundaries start to dissolve, they come back, don't worry, they do come back. But in the state of meditation, as they begin to dissolve and disappear, it's very natural that a sense of fear will arise. But this type of fear, and it could be there in your question, and there's two types of fear. There's the fear based on ego. Like, I'm afraid somebody's going to take something of mine. And then there's a fear based on wisdom. And the fear based on ego is what we all normally have. The sense of self. It's all about my boundaries. Fear is about the boundaries, and that's fine. But the fear based on wisdom is when we start to see that beyond these boundaries, there actually is no self. Relatively speaking, The self totally exists. Miles is here relatively. I needed to drive a car. I needed to take my kids to the pool. That's important. But beyond that, there's no Miles. There's just pure knowing, pure awakening, pure unfettered mind, pure unshakable mind. There is no sense of self. And when there's no self, there's no fear. But to cross that Rubicon, when we get to the edge of our comfort zone, it is very normal that fear arises. In a way, it's kind of a guardian of the gate. We need to work with that fear. We need to honor it and respect it. Absolutely. We need to work with it so that we can transcend and move through and in order to taste our greater potential.